if we're kingdom people, we need to develop kingdom vision. That's what we need. Kingdom people see the world like Jesus. And we may have our frustrations about how the world works, right? Why doesn't God just come and act in a big way? We may ask. Why doesn't he just eradicate evil, get rid of those weeds right now that exist in the world, be done with sin, we'll be done with the whole thing. There we go. It's all finished. I mean, we live in a world like this where we want to know the answer to that question. But what's interesting is Jesus continually acknowledges through the Gospels evil's existence and sin's existence over and over again. So it's not that God doesn't know it exists. In fact, he's very much acknowledging that. He's answering that in Jesus Christ. Evil exists, sin exists. We know that. The question, according to this parable, becomes, how are we supposed to live in that kind of a world where weeds exist? We need to develop vision like Jesus. That's what we need. And here are some thoughts that can help us get there. The first is this, and they're all on the screen for you. Read what Jesus said. Don't just take my word for it. Don't take the word of other people. Read it yourself. Even if you've done it over and over, read it yourself. Again, it's amazing how much more gets unlocked every time you read it. And if you've never experienced it, if you've never read it, or if it's been a long time, pick up the Bible, pick up your mobile device, read a gospel. In fact, that's my challenge to you. I'm not a New Year's resolution person. I think you should resolve to change things when it's time to change things. Just take those steps and do them. Don't wait until the new year. But here's one for you. If you want a New Year's resolution, pick up the Bible and read a gospel. My confirmation students had that challenge over the last 4 months. I said, pick any one of the 4 gospels. You can read it. And they picked Mark because it's a short one. But that's okay. I didn't say which one you had to read. Just pick one. You can read Matthew a chapter a day in a month. You can read Mark in half that time. Read a gospel. And if you look around, if you want to go beyond that, or if you need a reading plan, there are a zillion of them out there. Just go search online. You'll find them from YouVersion, Bible Gateway, Bible Study Tools, Biblica. It just keeps going on and on and on. Or you can just pick it up and just start reading a chapter a day. But read the words directly of Jesus, because so often Jesus gets misquoted or attributed with things he didn't actually say or with things he didn't actually mean. And so we need to read the words ourselves. There's an interesting video, and it'll be posted on our social media outlets this week. YouVersion is the Bible I prefer as far as online. I have it on my phone. It's developed by one of our covenant churches, lifechurch.tv. And in 2010, I mean, it's a pretty popular app. In fact, probably most of you have it on your phones if you have a smartphone. In 2010, it was nearly as popular as Angry Birds, which was the most popular app at the time, millions upon millions of downloads. And there's this interesting video of the creator of YouVersion, who works for Life Church, doing a Skype interview with a tech company, a tech news company. And the lady that was interviewing him couldn't figure this out. She said, so it's the Bible, and it's as popular as Angry Birds. But it's just the Bible? Who's reading this thing? She said, people are reading the Bible on their phones? She just couldn't figure it out. You can watch it this week. You'll enjoy. She could not figure it out, and Bobby, the creator of it, was very gracious with her and explains it very well. But yeah, people are just reading the Bible, as it turns out. And a lot of things are changing because of it. A lot of lives are changing because of it. No lives changed because of Angry Birds, except maybe the creator of Angry Birds. But you read the Bible, it'll change. We also have to not just read the words of Jesus, but understand what they meant as well. The Bible itself wasn't really meant to be read in isolation. It was meant to be read with other people and understood with other people. And so as you read, I challenge you to read a gospel, but as you read, talk to others, get together with others, discuss with other people what you read, because other people have different perspectives on that. I also encourage you then to study the Bible, not just talk to others, but to study it, to study what you read in the Gospels particularly. And again, there are a lot of tools out there. There was, again, an interesting article that just came out recently and has gotten a lot of feedback and reviews. Newsweek came out with their article, "The Bible So Misunderstood, It's a Sin." It was a well-written article with very poor arguments in it. So it makes for interesting reading if you like condescending language towards Christians. But it's very interesting. It was wrong in a lot of ways. Basically saying that evangelical Christians don't know what Jesus said because they don't read their Bibles, and even when they do, they misunderstand it and say he said the wrong thing. Well, how do we know that? Until we read it and tried to understand and study for ourselves. You can easily go point by point, and say, okay, he's wrong here, here, and here, but that's not the issue. Do we know that? Have we read it? And do we understand what Jesus is actually saying? As you read Gospels, you discover that Jesus makes you terribly uncomfortable sometimes. Really uncomfortable. The key is we have to understand or make sure that we know why we're uncomfortable. Is it because we misunderstand Jesus, or more likely because we understand Jesus? We also need to look not just at what Jesus said and what his words meant, but what Jesus did. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we can do some more with this later, but you read this word in Greek, dunamai. The New Testament was written in Greek. Jesus performed many dunamai, mighty deeds. We often translate it miracles. That's the word from which we get dynamite, incidentally. These mighty deeds. Jesus comes in and he heals people. He releases people from demons. He does all these things that reverse the equations of what sin has brought into the world and done to the world. And I want to point out that this is not God coming into the natural processes of science and just breaking through and then popping back out. It seems like a fairly simplistic and I don't buy it explanation. It's not that simple. This is Jesus directly interacting with his creation. Directly interacting with it, not intruding. This isn't an unidentified or an outside object intruding in something he shouldn't be in. This is Jesus exactly where he should be, is what we discover. And as we read Scripture, we have to discover that we can't import our worldview into Scripture hoping that we can somewhat change Scripture or that we can change Jesus. We have to let Jesus change our worldview, not try and make him fit ours. And so often we're trying to do that. So often we're trying to make Jesus fit the basic conception of the world we have. And so many times people read the Gospels and they read everything about Jesus, but they say, but I can't buy this miracle stuff, even though we don't always say it. People were saying it overtly for a long time. People still do say it, but sometimes we don't say it out loud. Those things don't really happen. That's messing with science. No, it's not. Those things really happened. Jesus really changes our perspective of the world. We have to see the world like Jesus. And most importantly, I think among all of this, Jesus says, follow me. That's really the key to it all. We can read all about Jesus, but until we've said, okay, yes, I'll follow you, nothing's really going to change.